One important feature of any good word processing software, and perhaps combining it with a spreadsheet or a table of data, is to complete a mail merge. So, to personalize a set of letters, to print a set of envelopes, to print mailing labels, to do your Christmas card list and have it insert the receiver's name into your design for your Christmas card. So, a lot of different things that you might want to personalize, and we would want to do a mail merge. So, two files that you should open right away, the letter for merge document, and I just made a silly letter I just made up some logo as if it were stationary. I put that in the header of the document. So we're going to insert some personal information here. And then you're also going to open an Excel spreadsheet called Data for Mail Merge Assignment. So I've created some data in this spreadsheet just to save you some time. Let's do a little bit of work with this first. So I want to send a letter to each of these people. I think these are the same names we had in the previous assignment. And I put in some information here. And we're going to call these people in for interviews for a job. So the time they're going to come in for the interview and the date at which they're going to interview is unique for each of them. All right, and then there's a column called Received here. And I wanted you to put some dates in just so that you can see the built-in formats. There's so many different kinds of formats already built into Excel. And again, I'm not capturing my entire window, so you'll notice that my ribbon is a little bit more collapsed than yours would be. So these three things, for example, would be horizontally across from each other, as would these three. So your ribbon still contains everything. All right, so let me just make up some dates here, and I want to talk about the different formats. So I might be tempted to put this in as, and I'm making up dates here, March 1st, 2015, and depending on how your version of Excel is set up, you might get a completely different format than I did here. So if I typed in this one, 3/2/2015 in this format, let's see what it does. It kept it that way. So let's experiment a little bit here. I'm going to put February 28, and it may or may not recognize all of these. So that one it recognized as a date and put it back in that format. All right, let's say we've got February 13th and March 14th, and we'll put this one, St. Patty's, let's put March 17th. All right, so what can we do with dates? Well, notice that this column has a different date format than this column. So how does Excel decide? Well, first it's how your preferences are set up on your software, whatever computer you're using. And then second, it might be that you've already formatted some cells before. So let's see what we can do with some date formats. So this format area here, there's lots of different choices. So if we click on custom, we get some choices here for dates. I think I always prefer just to go to this choice to format cells, because then I see all of the different choices. So this is how I would choose how I want to format money, whether you want to put a dollar sign, how many decimal places, whether you want general numbers or other numbers, and of course right now, so fractions, for example, how do you want your fractions formatted? But right now we're formatting dates, of course, and look at the choices that it gives us. So let's see if we can get this column to do them all in, I think a format that I'm used to seeing is the way I put this one in. So let me choose this month, day, year, and let's see if it will change all of those. So indeed it recognized all of those and put it in this same date format. But you might not. That might not be the choice that you want to use. So let's highlight these dates and let's go right back to the same place. Let's go back to formatting of dates. And you might actually like, for the purpose of our mail merge, to have this one that has the day of the week. So Excel is going to check out the day of the week for you and put it in. And why did it do that? Because it doesn't have enough space. So as soon as I expand that column, so just click and drag on the column border, and this is a good format for the letter that I'm going to put in. So I'm going to leave these in these two different formats. Not for any important reason, but so that you see the different choices. Okay, now one thing that I might do right away here is I might decide, and again, we're only printing 6 letters, but what if we were printing 600 letters? I think we would perhaps want them to come out in zip code order, because if you're doing a mass mailing, you might get a cheaper postal rate if you take them to the post office in zip code order. So we might want to sort on the zip code. I think for a smaller mail merge, we might just simply want them sorted into alphabetical order. So I can either click and drag, or if I click in this upper corner, it clicks the whole spreadsheet. And I want to do a sort, and I want to choose this. I always want to do, if I'm doing name data, do a custom sort. Don't just sort by last name, because notice I specifically made sure that we have 2 Brady's here and we have 2 Jones. So we want to make sure that we're not just sorting on one level. So the first thing we want to do is sort by last name from A to Z. And then we want to add a second level within that. So how should the 2 Brady's be organized? And how should the 2 Jones be organized? So once they're sorted by last name, then it should look at the first name column and sort them by first name. So sometimes, and in fact, you know, at school, that we have guys with the same first and last names, and then we would want to do a third sort by their middle initial. So, but for our purposes here, we don't have a middle initial, so we'll do okay. And it's important to notice that all their other columns traveled with them. If you had only sorted these name columns, then of course all of their addresses would have been mixed up. So you want to make sure you select all of your data before you do a custom sort. Okay, so notice that Jane Brady sorted ahead of Robert Brady, and Andrew Jones came out ahead of Susan Jones. Okay, so then we could save this data, and in fact, I just did a save under the same name. I didn't actually intend to do that. I wanted to do a save as, so I still had my original file, but that's okay. All right, so now we've got our data set up. Now we want to go set up the letter, our mail merge letter. So I'm just going to go back to Microsoft Word here. And this letter is set up, but we want to change each person's name and address we want to show up here. So now I'm going to go to page width so that you can see what we're doing here. So we want to personalize. We want to personalize the address block. So this is where we want to set this up for mailings. So on the mailings tab, everything that you need is set up here. But starting a mail merge, I think perhaps instead of doing them on your own, I think using the mail merge wizard is going to make your life much easier. So you get this mail merge pane here, and it's going to take us through step by step what we need to do. So first, what do you want to create? Here we want to do letters. Anything that has a larger size would be a letter as opposed to mailing labels. If you design mailing labels, then it has all the built-in choices of the different sizes that you could purchase at an office supply store, so that you don't have to set up your different size labels on your own. Okay, but we're doing a mail merge for letters. You could experiment with more of these choices later. So it tells us that we're at step 1 of 6. So it says now we want to start our document. So first we've selected our document type, and now we're going to start the actual document. And it's asking us how do you want to set up your letters? Do we want to use the current document? And yes, we do. If I was in the wrong file, then I would of course choose a different document. All right, so I am going to use the current document. So I've already answered that question, and now it says the next thing we have to do is select recipients. And notice the wizard always lets you go back to the previous step. So if you mess something up along the way, you just back up a step. So our next step, I'm going to click, and it's going to ask us to select our recipients. So do we want to use an existing list, or do we want to create it from our Outlook contacts if you have an Outlook mail contact file? Or you could type a new list. Well, we have already got our Excel spreadsheet, but how does it know where it is? So I need to click this Browse button for an existing list, and you will go to your file. I happen to have mine on this little SD card in my computer science Excel folder, and they are in the Excel spreadsheet data for mail merge assignment. All right, and which sheet are they on? Well, I happen to know that sheets 2 and 3 of that spreadsheet were blank, so sheet 1 is the only thing that it's offering me, and that's what I want. And you want to have column headers, so this check mark is kind of important here. So I click OK, and it goes and finds all of the data. And notice that my column headings show up, and I can alphabetize by columns. I can pull down here and see that there's a sort on each of these columns. So had I not sorted before, I could sort now. This check mark here, and I specifically thought that I would not send a letter to myself. So I'm going to uncheck Carol Herdke, but leave the others checked so that you should come up with 5 letters. Again, the point is if we can do a mail merge with 5 letters, we could do hundreds of letters. Okay, so that's the options. We could do a lot of other things here. We could do filters and so on. So a filter means set up a rule that says, for example, pick only the people who live in zip code 55523. So you got lots of other choices, but we're going to press on. Click OK. And now we're back to our mail merge wizard. So it gives me a choice, though. Did you change your mind? Do you want to select a different list, or do you want to go back and edit the list some more? And down here is always when we're ready to move on. So now we're ready to write our letter. Well, that sounds a little odd because you can see that most of our letter is written, but that was only to save time. You could start and add whatever you wanted to. So I'm going to click this step to write our letter, and most of the letter is written already, and that's, I think, what you'll usually do. But in my letter, but I could type whatever I wanted to. So for example, I left date here when really what I want to type is today's date. And when I'm making this video, it happens to be March 15th, so that's going to come up as the default. So you could put in whatever today's date is as you're doing the assignment. So I could type my entire letter, but all I've got left to do here is to insert some fields to personalize it. So I don't want the words address block here. So I could delete that, or I could just select it and replace it. So what I want to put in, you've got choices in your wizard to put in an address block, but you have to be very careful with the column headings matching. So I'm just always going to choose more items because it lets me pick from my column headings. So these you should recognize as the column headings from our document. So what do I want to go where my cursor was? I want the title, Mr., Ms., Miss, and then I want first name, and then I want last name. And notice I can click close. In the future you'll probably do more than this, but notice that it puts these right together with no spaces. So I want to click in between those little borders, those little feathers, and put in a space, and then down in the next row of my file, and I can see that I've got an auto spacing here. I'll go back and fix that later. In the next row then I want to go to more items, and this is where the mail merge, each person's name is going to show up in place of that. And then I'm going to put in the street address, and each person's street will show up there. And then you could click close and go down to the next row and then click it again. Or you could have clicked them all and then put in spaces later, put in your return characters. And then I want city and zip. And notice that I didn't put state in here. And I did that on purpose. I'm going to click close. Okay, right away I'm going to highlight these things and get them single spaced. So this is Microsoft Word doing its auto spacing. So I'm going to go to 1.0 and I'm going to remove the space after the paragraph. And here I do want a space. All right, in fact I want 2 spaces there, I believe. All right, so now notice that I'm missing the state. So what I'm going to do in between city and zip is I'm actually going to type a comma and then hit the space bar. And then I'm going to type Wisconsin. And of course you could just put WI. I suppose we would just put capital WI. And then 2 spaces before the zip code is our standard rule. So this is not a mail merge item. WI and the comma are going to show up on everyone's. So you can see which ones are mail merge items by the ones that have the little feather, the little arrows on the edges. Okay, and here where it says salutation here. So now I'm going to type on the keyboard, dear, space, and then I'm going to go into my mail merge wizard and select more items. And here I want title and then last name. And I'm going to close. And I always have to remember that when we do this, it doesn't put in a space. So I'm going to hit the space bar. And then I'm going to put a semicolon here. So it will say, Dear Ms. Hartke or Dear Mr. Jones. And now if we read through the letter, which isn't anything very special, you see I put some X's in here just to hold some space so you could see those aren't really words. So we received your application on, so I'm going to get rid of these X's and I'm going to replace them with a mail merge item. So back to more items, and this is the one where we put in the date we received their application. So I'm just going to choose insert, and notice that I just replaced those X's with the database field. And here we've got 2 more to put in. We would like you to come to our main office at the address above for an interview on. So this is my date. More items. This is the date we put for their interview. Insert. Whoops, I just did that twice. That's okay. Let me close and show you that if you do that and you entered it twice, just click delete, highlight and delete. Delete that set of arrows there also. All right, it looks like I still have 2 spaces. And then, so they're going to come to our office on Wednesday, whatever we put there. April, we'll see it in a minute. April 15th. And then at what time? So I'm going to get rid of these X's. They were just holding a place there so you would see where to put in the time from our spreadsheet. And it already is inserted, so don't make that mistake of hitting insert, because I double clicked. If you single clicked, then you'd have to hit insert. Okay, and close. All right, and you've got the idea that you could insert 50 different things into your mail merge letter. If you had some data, you could insert a table or a chart that's personalized for each of your customers. Okay, so I'm done with the creating my letter, and now it says the next thing is to preview your letters. So watch what happens when I click preview your letters. It shows me where I am here. So it puts in whoever came in first. Uh-oh, I'm wondering, Andrew Jones came up first. So somehow or other I must have sorted backwards. So don't let that happen. Would you guys go back, please? Well, let's, and I notice here that it looks like I might have a double space between Mr. Jones. I'm just going to go back to writing my letter. And I'm going to check here. 1, 2, doesn't look like I did. All right, so if you saw any errors there, was it here that I had 2 spaces? There should just be 1. All right, so now we can preview our letters again. So would you guys please, I'm not going to redo the whole video, but you can check to make sure that you've got them sorted in order before you do this. And now here comes the interesting choice. So you can scroll here so that you can see your whole letter. This is where Sarah Anderson is going to have to sign our letters. So I like the look of the letters. And now I have a choice here of completing the merge. And when I complete the merge, I've got two choices. If I was doing 500 letters, I would probably go right to the printer. What I would like you guys to do, since we only have a few letters, is I would like you to choose edit the individual letters. This is the only way that you create a new file of all of your letters. You would not want to save a file of 500 letters, however, but because we only have a few and I don't want you to print them all, that would be a waste of paper. So let's choose, instead of going to the printer, let's choose to edit the individual letters. And it says, do you want all of them? And I'm going to click OK. And now let's see what we've got in this file. So let me move it a little bit here. So, and in fact, it is in order. So there's Ann Bingham. So it was showing me the last letter perhaps. And there's Jane Brady. So it was sorted correctly, as I thought. And there's Mr. Robert Brady and his information. I should pause here to look at our date. Oh, and I got a different format for the date than I actually wanted. But you might next time change that date. I thought it would stay the same way, so I probably needed to format it. Microsoft Word obviously decided to put it in its own format, so it's not terrible. And you got the idea for mail merge. So again, I'm not going to redo the entire video for the date format. Okay, so when you get this far, would you please save the file, since it's only 5 or 6 letters, do a save as, and save this in your Excel folder, because that's the unit we're on right now. So save this file into your Excel folder. Don't bother printing it at all, and do not bother emailing it to me. In class, when you have the letters merged, would you just call me over to your computer and I'll just take a quick look. So I'm just going to go back here. So I'll just have you quickly scroll through once you finish this video lesson, and I'll give you your points.